Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show.
Yeah, it is. Welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sweat Network, where last Sunday we made a few waves on the international scene with our interview of Tricia Morrison, the widow of Tommy the Duke Morrison, who came on our show to offer evidence that her husband did not die of AIDS, which has been widely reported. Tricia was joined on that show by Dr. Jonas Moses, who is a scientist and a recognized expert on the HIV virus and the AIDS syndrome. If you haven't heard that interview, which is the most listened to interview in the 10-year history of our show, you can find it right here on the Grueling Truth Network. Just do a search or look around a little bit, you'll find it. Very interesting stuff, and I think you'll enjoy it if you haven't heard it yet, or even if you have. Today, if everything goes according to play, we are going to have another blockbuster guest. In about 25 minutes, we expect to be hooking up with a boxer who is high on the pound-for-pound list of every credible boxing analyst, and in fact is ranked number one in the world pound-for-pound by the Transnational Boxing Rating Board, which is highly respected, very unbiased, and good bunch of guys over there. They know their stuff. Stay with us for a live, in-depth interview with the undefeated, unified super lightweight champion of the world, Terence Crawford, who just recently announced that he's moving up to 147 to challenge that murderer's row, already overcrowding the welterweight division. Terence Crawford is coming up very shortly. Before that, we will get another report. Actually, we won't, because I screwed up. We were going to get another report from UK correspondent Paul McLaughlin, and I accidentally deleted his recording before the show, and so we're not going to hear from Paul today, unfortunately, and that's my fault. But we begin, as always, by talking about the week in boxing with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman's a professional boxer and a boxing trainer from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwaan Zahid's a boxing journalist from Toronto. John J. Raspanti is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com, and he and I are co-authors of the West Coast Boxing Hall of Fame's 2017 Book of the Year, Intimate Warfare, The True Story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward Boxing Trilogy, which you can currently find, we're proud to say, on Amazon's national bestseller list in the boxing category. Guys, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. And Rizwaan just joined us. Riz, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Hey, Riz.
Got a little bit of an echo, so Riz, if you're in if you're on speakerphone, take us off. All right. Okay, John, I'm going to start with you because you're going to have to leave a little earlier today. The fight doctor, Ferdie Pacheco, died this week at age 89. We had him on this show twice, and he was absolutely terrific, talking about his very wild ride with Muhammad Ali. What people might not know is that he was just a doctor in the barrio in Florida, treating a lot of Cubans and Puerto Ricans for free, not charging them anything because they couldn't afford to pay him. And he was also a real serious boxing fan, and he used to hang out at Angelo Dundee's gym in Miami just to watch and be around the sport. And he spoke fluent Spanish and had a generous heart, so Angelo Dundee recorded him to take care of all of his fighters, and that's how it all began for Ferdie Pacheco, and then he met Ali, and his whole life changed. Talk about reaping the reward, John, of your good deed by catching lightning in a bottle. What a life this guy had.
Yeah, and being at the right place at the right time, Dennis. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Everything I pretty much read about the man, he was a good man. He didn't charge. I believe I read that somewhere in one of these numerous books that we have. He never charged Muhammad Ali any money. He had definite concerns later on in Muhammad's career that he was taking too many blows, and he actually stopped after, I believe, the Ernie Shavers fight. That was it. Because if anybody remembers that fight, Muhammad Ali took some wicked shots from that man, Ernie Shavers, who could knock a building down with his blows. And And just one of these cases, Dennis, that just when you were talking about Ferdie Pacheco, I was just thinking, people have a life, and some people have an incredible life, and I would say that his life was incredible in most ways, and because of being, I mean, all the things he saw, all the things he was involved in, what a life, and what a phenomenal time to be with Muhammad Ali. Everything he saw, he wrote a few books about it, and they were just compelling stuff. And I would think that a week ago or whatever, he was laying there maybe thinking about his life. You'd think, wow, I mean, I don't want to go, but I certainly had a fabulous life, fantastic life. I hooked up with some incredible people. I saw some things. I witnessed things that most of us can only dream about witnessing. I mean, he was there for pretty much all of Muhammad Ali's greatest fights, and it just would be one of those things where I would think you would rest in peace easily because of everything you did and saw and were involved in. So rest in peace, Ferdie. But what an amazing existence, and we're talking about a witness to boxing history with the greatest. That must have been a phenomenal ride.
The guy lived about as large as he possibly could have. Okay, Riz, let's start with some depressing silliness here. Amir Khan has signed up for a reality show called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and he's headed into the jungle to scratch mosquito bites and eat bugs. This comes right on the heels of stories that he's back together with his estranged wife, which apparently is a positive thing, and he's rededicated himself to boxing. We've had him on this show, and he seemed to me like a rational and centered guy who goes to Pakistan to help impoverished people there and teach kids how to box. But Riz, he keeps getting weird on us. What do you make of him, and is he just a really talented guy with a very short attention span?
I don't know, to be honest. That's a very Virgil Hunter would actually be his opinion on this would be very interesting because both guys like him and Andre Ward are both in the same gym, and they kind of lead very, very different lives. One likes to be, completely in the shadows, and the other one always seems to be finding attention for, a lot of the times it's good for what Amir Khan does with charity and everything else, but a lot of the times it's bad. And I think we're getting to the point where if there was a window for him to make one more run at a title, I think it's pretty much closed or close to it. I think I know he's had some surgeries done. I think he's had a shoulder problem, but he's been very, very inactive in the last couple of years. And when he fought, you knew he was going to go for some big money fights, even after the Canelo fight. Earlier this year, the Pacquiao fight was supposed to happen before the Jeff Horn fight came about, but he hasn't fought since. And that's a weird thing. Usually, when one of these fights falls through, he goes after you go after someone else. And I understand, he's always been that guy who's so close to that big money fight against one of the really top guys, but he's never been able to get it. And then I think obviously Pacquiao losing to Jeff Horn completely changed that for the possibility of happening, at the end of this year or even early next year. So I think he's got to get rid of the waiting game because the window's closing and the guys are getting better and younger and faster and stronger. If you look at the guys at welterweight, Errol Spence and Thurmans and all these guys, Khan's of that previous, I don't want to say previous generation, but Danny Garcia was one of the guys who was of the later group of guys who was from that welterweight kind of like mini era. And even then, he's still kind of there, but, he had a close loss to Keith Thurman, but he seems like he's almost off the grid. So Amir Khan's already, based on his inactivity, he's now well behind everyone else. And for him to come back and make a run at the title, he's got to put together some really big wins because that division is always deep, and it's deeper. I think right now it might be deeper than it has been in many, many years because all the guys in that division are right in their prime. And for Amir Khan to come back with years, would you favor him against Crawford or Thurman or even a rematch against Danny Garcia or Errol Spence? You're gonna have to say no to all of those, and it's hard to see how he would even get one of those fights. I know they're all under PBC, or at least the majority are, with the exception of Terence Crawford. But I doubt he's going to get those fights, and if he does get them, I don't think anyone sees him winning. And for those other guys, that's a fight they're just probably not willing to take. So he's he's going to be sitting on the sidelines even longer until he at least takes a tune-up fight or at least something to get people's attention again. Because for a guy, he's saying his attention's on boxing, but he's got this reality show and stuff coming up. He seems like he has 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I think it's time he has to make a decision which foot is going where.
Yep.
Okay, Travis, weird story number 2. Oscar De La Hoya, and feel free to chime in on Khan too if you want, but Oscar De La Hoya appears to be trying to lure Conor McGregor back into the boxing ring for some reason, and the opponent he has in mind is, drumroll, Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar's 44 years old. He's been retired for 9 years. McGregor's an MMA guy, not a boxer. He took his shot at Floyd Mayweather, who was also retired, and some people found it entertaining, but I don't think it was really very competitive. It did make a lot of money, and Oscar's a promoter, but I think he's demeaning his own sport, as Mayweather did, by tearing a page from Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Entertainment playbook. He's trying to cash in as a promoter by arranging another pay-per-view exhibition that is disguised as a real fight with himself as a star. I lost respect for Mayweather when he did it, and I'm losing respect for De La Hoya if he pursues this and pretends it's a serious competition other than a made-for-TV reality show. And as for McGregor, what the hell is the upside other than cash in his pocket? Is this guy still a serious athlete, or is he a sideshow freak? He's got to make up his mind. And by the way, Ricky Hatton says he'll come out of retirement to fight Rio Ferdinand, the soccer star, who wants to try boxing.
Jeez.
Should I lighten up?
Yeah.
Make it a double bill. No. Put them both on the same card.
Yeah. Listen, I'll say this, that I think that 100% Oscar De La Hoya still beats Conor McGregor. I'm going to say that. I think he beats Conor McGregor if they fought. I agree. I think he would, even being retired for 9 years. I still think he'd beat Conor McGregor. However, as Oscar's became a promoter, I've started losing so much respect for him over the years, because when Floyd Mayweather did it, Oscar came out vehemently against the fight and said that Floyd Mayweather's ruining the sport. This is the worst fight possible ever made, blah, 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 and was so against it and was like so hard on Mayweather, and which a lot of people should be, because it was a terrible fight for boxing when Mayweather fought McGregor. But it just seems so funny now that it can benefit Oscar, that now Oscar is for it and calling out Conor McGregor. Oscar's become one of the biggest hypocrites, and he honestly, I feel like he's taking a page out of the Bob Arum book. I mean, Bob Arum originally started promoting Oscar De La Hoya, then Oscar kind of split with him and, formed his own Golden Boy Promotions where he's at now. But I feel like Oscar's headed down the Bob Arum path, meaning I think when Oscar speaks now, I think he's full of shit. I can't believe what Oscar says, because I just think about every time Oscar says something, it immediately makes me think, okay, what's his motive for saying it? And that's not good. That's not a good reputation to have. I want people, when they tell me something, I want people to believe what I'm saying and know that I'm being honest and forthright and straightforward. And I don't feel like I have that with Oscar. When I hear Oscar talking now, I hear him talking, and then immediately whatever he says, I know that there's a motive behind what he says, and he's not saying it because he actually means it. He's saying it because there's a motive behind it, because he's getting ready to trick you, or he's getting ready to pull the wool over your eyes, because that's just the way he's becoming, especially with these comments about him wanting to fight Conor McGregor. It's a 100% money grab, and Mayweather did it. And we expected stuff like that out of Mayweather. Mayweather's retired. Mayweather's retired for almost 2 years. He came out and he freaking probably made over $200 million for what I say was probably the easiest fight of his career. Literally, I think McGregor was the easiest fight of his career, and he cashed a big fat check. And if McGregor does this and comes out and actually fights De La Hoya and then loses to De La Hoya, he's 0-2 as a professional boxer. His selling appeal is gone. So I don't even know if he would do that, but who knows, man? We live in a different world now, guys. This world is forever changing. I mean, we're living in an alternate universe, it seems like sometimes. I mean, Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, who was 0-0. We had a 49-0 guy fight a 0-0 guy. And it made more money than any boxing match has ever made. I think it even made more than the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. So we just live in an alternate universe. So the weirdness level is on 100 for sure. So it's shocking, but at the same time, it's becoming almost the norm, because we're talking about this stuff, and we have been. It just keeps happening and keeps like evolving, and I don't know what else could possibly happen, but this is definitely weird. I don't know what else is in store for boxing, but to me, it does. There's a good sign too, because boxing is that popular right now that people are. We're talking about it constantly, even if it's kind of these sideshow stuff. We are still talking about boxing. So, to me, I'm a fan of that. I like it now when I go to different countries or random people's houses and they all know that I'm a professional boxer. I like it now because people start talking about it with me. They're like, oh, what's going on with this stuff? So anytime I get a chance to talk boxing, I am so happy because then I break it down for people and we just go into detail about so much stuff. But this stuff is having the average person talk about boxing, whether it's Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao stuff. I still love it because I'm talking boxing with people that I've never, ever talked boxing with. In the past couple of years, that's what's happened, guys. I'm walking to people's houses that I've never met before, because of my girlfriend, tennis, whatever else that I've never met before, and they're wanting to talk boxing now. So I like it because a guy like me, I kind of veer them away from the weirdness and I start talking about the other stuff that actually matters. And I kind of educate people like that. So I love it though. To me, if I can talk boxing, I love it. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
John, there are psychoanalysts, amateur psychoanalysts like us in the blogosphere who think this is De La Hoya's way of trying to refight his 2008 Mayweather fight. Oscar said yesterday that he'd only need 2 rounds to knock out McGregor, and he taunted Floyd for needing 10. Do you think this is more about Oscar versus Floyd than it is about De La Hoya McGregor?
It's a battle of chutzpah. Promoters remind me so much of politicians because politicians on one day can say, "Oh, I never do that," and the next day they say, "Hey, that's a great idea. I think I'll do that." And that is exactly what Oscar De La Hoya is doing. I just rolled my eyes and shook my head. I thought, well, what else is he going to do? Want to go to Australia and fight a kangaroo next? I mean, it just the ridiculousness of it is beyond it. I mean, and Travis summed it up perfectly. It is a weird world we are living in. Oscar De La Hoya is stuck on 39 wins as a pro, and I don't know that Mayweather is always in the back of his mind. I think because he almost beat Mayweather. If you watch that fight, he was actually winning in the beginning, and I think he has regrets about that, and there might be a little bit of jealousy that Mayweather beat him to the punch in some things, but he always said that he would never do this. He said that he would be a promoter who was all about the fighters, and that he would, and he has done some good things. Let's not be too critical in that area, but this stuff is circus stuff, and it's almost like he's thrown in the towel and said, look, if you can't beat him, join him. And with Oscar, Oscar is a complicated guy in a lot of ways, and he's had a lot of issues outside the ring. And I just wonder, maybe Golden Boy isn't doing as well as we think, too. Maybe he needs the money for his company. That could be a motivating factor, too. So I hope it doesn't happen. And speaking of McGregor, I think he'd be foolish to take that fight. If he really entertains the possibility of fighting again, let him fight Paulie Malignaggi. I think that one would be fun and competitive. And since they're arguing about what happened in that training session, and to be honest, I don't want Conor McGregor to fight anybody anymore in the boxing ring. I mean, he can go back to where he was before and talk about how he lasted 10 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. Whatever, go ahead, but let's move away from this. My sense of history of boxing, boxing does have a weird, peculiar history in some ways. I want to get away from this part right now, and I don't think McGregor has said anything about Oscar's challenge. At least I haven't read anything. But I will sum it up by saying I agree with Travis. I think if they got in the ring, that would be a motivator for Oscar. He'd be thinking, look, it took Mayweather 10 rounds, so there's your Mayweather connection. I'm going to do it sooner. And I don't think he'd do it in 2. But he would certainly try to get him out of there before 10 so he could say, I beat Mayweather and I'm 44 years old and I haven't fought for 9 years. So he could finally say, ha, 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 Floyd Mayweather. So, your initial question, I'm sure there's a lot to that with him. It's a competitive thing. Boxers are great competitors. You ask any of them, they're the most competitive people in the world. He wants to one-up Floyd Mayweather. So there you go. So I hope it doesn't happen, but in this world,
in this world.
Yep.
Man, you guys are smart. This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor. We're talking to our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan, Zahid, John J. Raspanti. Riz, Sergey Kovalev, first of all, you might have a different take on De La Hoya and McGregor, because it might have been you that was talking about the all the big UFC audience that came over and why that was good for boxing. I can't remember. But Sergey Kovalev's comeback fight this weekend at Madison Square Garden is against Vyacheslav Shabranskyy. The vacant WBO light heavyweight title is going to be on the line. Shabransky's 19-1, got 16 KOs. He was knocked out by Sullivan Barrera, and he hadn't really beaten a name brand fighter yet. He's 30-1 betting underdog, but Riz, this guy can crack. He has the look of a reasonable, safe return for Kovalev, who's a great fighter, and this is probably a confidence builder after back-to-back losses to Andre Ward. But he's definitely got a puncher's chance, doesn't he?
I think he has a puncher's chance. But I saw the betting odds. The betting odds were shockingly different. It'd be interesting because John David Jackson recently came out and said, well, the way to beat, now he's kind of giving everyone the blueprint. The way you beat Sergey is to go to the body. So it'll be interesting to see if Shabranskyy does that. As far as, I'll just touch on the De La Hoya McGregor issue a little quickly. Yeah, you're right. I haven't heard anything about McGregor talking about De La Hoya. It seems like they're trying to finalize, or there was rumors they were at least trying to finalize McGregor's next fight in the UFC for December. It looks like that might be on hold. I don't think it has anything to do with De La Hoya. I think it has to do more his terms with the UFC. McGregor's a guy who wants to make money, but he's always been the guy who wants to be known as the best, and I think that's why he's taking the risk. So I don't think there's a lot he can gain from the De La Hoya fight. I think Oscar, to be honest, I just think he has a lot of jealousy with Floyd, with the way Floyd has kind of carried his career.
Yeah.
Floyd in so many ways, they're both cash cows, but Floyd, in despite his trouble with the law and all that, has always been a disciplined fighter, and I think that's the difference with him and Oscar. Oscar's gotten in trouble, and it came out after, he was doing some coke, he had a drinking problem. There's various other issues he kind of faced that Floyd really hasn't. But I think part of that is, so I think he thinks that, this is a way to one-up Floyd, like you guys said. As far as Kovalev, though, this is a way for him to kind of get back in it. And it's weird when it's a very rare situation where the guy who wins retires and the loser's coming back a few months later. We don't usually see this. And all considering, it's actually a pretty quick turnaround. But I think for Kovalev, for him, it tells him that this fight will indicate where he is actually in that division. It didn't seem like he wants to move up to cruiserweight. The guys at cruiserweight are huge. Those guys are coming down from 220. So he'd be really small at cruiserweight. And you know what? The light heavyweight division is very interesting right now. With Ward, the clear number one, vacating everything, it's a crapshoot right now. And you know what? Before the Ward fights, people thought Kovalev was the second, if not first best fighter in the world. After the first fight, people said the same. And after the rematch, with all the way it happened and the way the knockout happened and the low blows and John David Jackson pretty much being, a traitor midway camp, Kovalev really fought with everything possibly against him. So I think we should take that loss with a grain of salt. It depends how he performs on Saturday, but let's face it, if he performs well on Saturday, there's no reason not to name him the number one light heavyweight, because Adonis Stevenson has more inactivity than everyone. So does Beterbiev, and they're both trained, or they're both promoted by Yvan Michel in Montreal, which is, I think, seems to be a common problem now. Jean Pascal has lost a little bit. Eddie Alvarez really hasn't kind of proven himself yet, but there's Badou Jack, there's other fighters there. But Kovalev would still be, I think the division is Kovalev's to lose now, because other than that, he's trying to look, besides Ward, he's looked untouchable. And even that Ward fight, people are still going to make the argument that he won that first fight, including myself. So I think a good win really puts him back at that number one spot. I don't think he lost too much in that rematch. I think this is more of a make or break for Kovalev than the second fight was against Ward.
Terence Crawford's coming up in just a few minutes. Travis, let's touch on the weekend fights, and I'll run through them for our audience here. Carl Frampton got off the deck and decisioned Horatio Garcia. Julian Williams won a really tough decision over Ishii Smith. Tomas Adamek overcame a cut and beat Fred Cassie. Jerwin Ancajas TKO'd Jamie Conlon. Anthony Durrell won a technical decision over Dennis Douglan, cut him with an accidental headbutt. Got cut by an accidental head cut. So, Travis, no marquee fights there. But did any of those fights catch your eye? Did any of these guys impress you over the weekend?
No, I wouldn't say they have, but it was kind of interesting to see Ishe Smith back in the fold because I haven't seen him around for a while, and he was a tough competitor coming up. Interesting enough, though, the Thomas Adamek fight. Thomas Adamek, one of my good buddies from the Midwest, from Kansas, his name is Cam F. Awesome is his official name.
Yeah.
But he was the Olympian heavyweight. They actually flew him over there. He was the sparring partner for Thomas Adamek, and Cam is still amateur. Cam is still fighting in amateur tournaments, and he's getting ready to fight in another tournament in December. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they had Cam all the way over there to spar with Thomas Adamek, who is a seasoned professional, former world champion, just tough as nails guy. But I just thought that was kind of interesting because I know Cam, and we speak often. So it was just interesting to know that he was in his training camp. I don't know why, again, because Cam doesn't even want to turn pro. He never does. But I thought that was interesting to see that. But nobody really, in my opinion, stood out. It's good to see that Durrell Anthony is still in his winning ways, especially because I actually beat Anthony Durrell to win the national PAL in 1996. So I got that on my resume still, and he's a world champion. So it's always good to see him do well. I'm still looking for his brother Andre to see what happens with his career, and he's got some stuff going on as well. So that's just nobody really stood out, but it was good boxing, guys. It was all people that are either former world champions or legit contenders that have been legit contenders or still are legit contenders. So it was it wasn't a blockbuster weekend. It didn't get all the press that it probably deserved because there's some very good fighters that fought, and that it's those type of fighters that's going to help keep boxing relevant, really, because we're always going to have the blockbuster guys. We need the other guys to fill those voids of these kind of off and down weekends, I guess you could say. And I think they did. There was good fights.
All right, this is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. We're still waiting to hear from Terence Crawford. Hopefully he'll get through. Riz, let's talk about Anthony Durrell for just a second. He's another guy who's had kind of a strange career. This guy is 31-1-1. He's got 24 knockouts. He's beaten a pretty strong list of B-listers, like guys like Anthony Hanshaw and Sakio Bika and Marcio Antonio Rubio, Caleb Truax, and now Dennis Douglan. His only loss was to Badu Jack, and this guy has a victory over cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now he says he's ready for any super middleweight belt holder, which would mean George Groves, Tyrone Zugi, David Benavidez, James DeGale, Gilberto Ramirez. His brother Andre also has a belt, but they won't be fighting. So Riz, at age 33, he's just now ready to make his move. What are his chances of achieving his world title dream?
Well, again, that division is kind of wide open with, Badu Jack, who is probably the number one guy in the division, has moved up. James DeGale is probably the number two guy, and that's the fight that probably makes the most sense. But the big thing for both Durrells is inactivity has plagued them both incredibly. Even just, at most they would fight twice a year, and I never understood that. There's some guys who love fighting minimum 2 or 3 times a year, and those guys are the ones who can really put some momentum together. But Durrell, if this is the time for him to kind of make this fight, he's 33. He's not going to get any better. This is what he is. James DeGale probably makes the most sense. DeGale had a I believe it was a draw with Badu Jack, and a lot of people thought that Jack won that fight. For DeGale, it's a fight for him to prove that the Jack fight wasn't a fluke, that maybe he should have. A draw was a fair result, that he shouldn't have lost that one. And it seems like that division, and what bothers me, I think that division has a bunch of the guys who are same under, the Premier Boxing Championship banner of Al Heyman. So there's really no reason for a lot of these fights not to happen. And that's where you can put the blame on some fighters there, because there's no promotion, there's no politics and stuff really. I think a lot of the issue is for some of these fighters who just don't want to fight each other. I'm not saying that's the issue here with Durrell, but I think if this is the push that he wants, I think DeGale is the number one guy in that division, and that probably makes the most sense for him to fight.
All right, and that is Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, John J. Raspanti. They're our expert analysts. They are with us every week. Coming right up after this next break is one of the finest fighters of his generation, undefeated, undisputed world champion Terence Crawford. We're thrilled to have this guy on the show. Travis and I are going to interview him right after a very short break.
Hi, this is Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, inviting you to check out a new book I've co-written with John J. Raspanti. Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy, is a behind-the-scenes look at the collision course of two authentic ring warriors of our generation and the greatest three-fight pyrotechnic explosion since Frazier and Ali. Intimate Warfare is currently on the national bestseller list and one of Amazon's hot new releases for 2017. Order it now online at Amazon.com. Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the Sweet Science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Hamilton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken two boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
You're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show, the hottest, sweatiest show on West Coast radio.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Bubbles. Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where today's featured guest is undeniably one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best fighters of his generation. Terence Bud Crawford won the WBO Super Lightweight World Championship in 2014 with a unanimous decision over Ricky Burns. He defended that belt with wins over Yuriorkis, Gamboa, Ray Beltran, Thomas Delorme, Derry Jean, Hank Lundy. He added the WBC title in 2016 by beating Victor Postal, then stopped John Molina and Felix Diaz in title defenses, and earlier this year he became the super lightweight champion taking the IBF and WBC straps from Julius Indongo, and that unified the belts for the first time since Kostya Tszyu. He recently announced his intention to move up to welterweight, which already might be the most talent-laden class in the sport, and he's got the whole boxing world tingling over the possibilities up there at 147. Terence, great pleasure to welcome you to the Ringside Boxing Show. How's life, man?
Hey, it's going all right. It's going good.
Man, I guess so. Travis is on the line with us, too, so let's get with it here. Talk to us first about your decision to move up to 147. Was it simply the right time physically for you, and had it been a challenge to make 140, or was it just about the rich possibilities of that welterweight division, which already has Keith Thurman and Errol Spence and Danny Garcia and Sean Porter and Pacquiao and Jeff Horn, Khan, Brooke, a lot of other terrific fighters?
No, I just feel it was the right time to move up, being that I already accomplished everything there is to accomplish at junior welterweight. I just feel like there's bigger and better opportunities for me at 147.
Some of these guys are already circling each other. The name that's been connected with yours over the past few days has been Jeff Horn, who's the undefeated Australian who took the WBO belt from Manny Pacquiao in July. That seems like a great place to start. What are your feelings about fighting a Jeff Horn fight?
Well, I'm his mandatory, so I believe that's the next fight that will happen, and that's the fight that we're looking towards. And after that, sky's the limit.
And you don't mind going to Australia for that?
I have my concerns, being that I felt like Manny Pacquiao won that fight, but
yep.
You know, it's a business, and you know, for the right fee, you know, we'll go over there. But I don't feel like he's the bigger star in that fight with me and him.
Yeah, would you rather, bring him over here to the U.S., Terence? Would you be okay with fighting him in the U.S. instead of going down to Australia?
Yeah, that's the number one, thing that we'll try to get finished first is to get him over here. But if not, I don't have no problem with going over there and doing what I got to do to bring the title back over here. But at the same time, it got to be on fair playing field.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're definitely correct with that because you've been one of the fighters that hasn't been afraid to go overseas. Because you went over to beat Ricky Burns, and win that, and you went in his home country as well. So I think it would be just fair, for Jeff Horn to come over here. But I think that right now the financial possibilities of a Jeff Horn fight over there, that's probably huge. I mean, after he beat Pacquiao, which I think we both can agree that I don't think he beat Pacquiao for one. Yep. But I think that the money would be huge, probably go to Australia for you. Would that be a factor for you? If they just offered you some a crazy amount of money to go down there, you definitely would be on board with that in Australia?
Of course. Like I said, it got to make sense. Got to make sense.
If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, man. That's a prize fighter. That's what we got to do.
Right.
Terence, you're from Omaha, Nebraska, which wasn't exactly a hotbed of boxing until you came along. I remember Ron Stander. I'm an old guy, and I covered Ron Lyle. Ron Stander knocked out Ernie Shavers, and he fought Joe Frazier, and he fought Lyle and a lot of other guys. But you're really the guy who put this city on the map in the sport of boxing. Tell us the story of how you got started in the sport in Omaha.
Well, the guy that owns the boxing gym lived behind me. He asked me if I was interested in playing boxing. And I went to my mom and told her that some strange man tried to talk to me and try to get me to go to some gym. And while I'm telling her the story, he's knocking on my door and everybody is speaking to him and noticing him, and he asked my mom, can I box? And she said, yeah, and I've been boxing ever since. I took 5 years off playing basketball, wrestling, and stuff like that, but other than that, yeah, I've still been boxing.
What was your best sport besides boxing? What were you really good at before that?
I was pretty good at football and basketball. I still play basketball here and there, pretty good in it, but basically anything I do, I feel like I'm the best in it.
You're one of those guys, yep.
Hey,
go ahead.
Terence,
go ahead, Travis.
Me and you fought back in 2009, and you beat me in a decision, and I know that I'll never, ever in my life get that rematch in boxing, but I love basketball too, man, and my older brother's actually a police officer in Omaha, and I'm going there for Thanksgiving, so I think I deserve a rematch, but on the basketball court maybe, man.
You want to lose again?
What's that?
I'm down. I said, you want to lose again? I'm down.
Yeah. I'm up for the challenge, man. I love basketball. It's my favorite sport, but it's my first favorite actually over boxing.
Yeah, Travis was a all-conference point guard, man. What position did you play?
I play point guard, but he's going to lose.
Of course, you got the confidence.
Terence, your grandfather and your father and your uncle kind of trained in boxing too, didn't they? Didn't you have a family background?
They boxed, but none of them went professional. They all stopped in the amateurs. Like I said, it's a lot of great fighters that come from Nebraska that did big things in the sport as amateurs, but didn't have that opportunity to go and compete against the professionals because of the promotion, the management company, being that they from Omaha, they didn't get the same opportunity. So a lot of people, that's older than me, they just quit, and some of them got on drugs, and some of them went to jail, and the streets kind of got to them.
Terence, if I asked you, what was the big moment in your evolution as a fighter, what would you say? As a young fighter, when did you really start to understand that you had a real good chance to become something special?
Well, I would have to say when I came back to the gym in 2002, that's when I noticed that I was destined to be something special, being that I was fighting all the top guys in the nationals, and I only had so fewer fights than those guys. I remember having 4 fights fighting in the national silver gloves and competing with the top 3 guys in my weight class, and you know, I didn't win, but at the same time, I didn't get stopped, and I didn't you know, get beat up like all the other kids would have with a 4th fight, you know. So going into the nationals, I was beating the 1 and 2 guys in the division, and that just gave me a whole outlook. Like when I started getting senior and above age, and that's when I knew that, you know, I can go farther in the sport.
You know, Terence, this is Travis again. I remember I fought you in 2009, and I remember after fighting you, you obviously didn't know I said this, but I fought Keith Thurman, I fought Chavez Jr., I fought Paez Jr., you know, I fought a lot of the who's in your weight division now. And when people would come up to me and ask me who the best fighter is that I fought, I still tell them to this day, I say it's Terence Crawford. And I said that in 2009. I said that there's just something special. There's just something special about you, man. And I was in the ring and I shared the ring with you. So I got up close and personal, although it wasn't very fun, but I got up close and personal of how special you were. But to allude to Dennis's question, as an amateur, you felt you were good, but as a pro, which fight did you really start realizing that, hey, I got what it takes to not only be good and be a world champion, but I got what it takes to be a superstar? And Terence, I think you're a superstar, and I've said this for a while, but I think that you're a superstar.
Well, I don't know. I would think my first fight in professional, you know, I came out to amateurs. I was already one of the top amateurs, and I always said I had a professional style. And my first fight, I fought a guy 2-0 with 2 knockouts, and I knocked him out cold in 26 seconds, I believe, in Denver, Colorado. And I remember thinking to myself and saying to my coaches, I was like, man, these gloves is little. I said, man, I'm going to go out there and knock him out. And then my coach was like, yeah, just know. You got on 8 ounces. He got on 8 ounces too. So go out there and be careful. So I was like, all right. So, you know, it was my road to the title was slow, and it was slower than I wanted it to be. But at the same time, I feel like everything happened for a reason, and I feel like I could have been farther than I am now had I got the opportunity, you know, sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that equates to us being from the Midwest. I mean, from the Midwest, we don't get a lot of credit for being producing great fighters. But obviously, like you just said, you know, you are great, but you got delayed to that title shot because you are from the Midwest and you didn't get all of that love early, which I think it makes you appreciate it even more to where you're at. And what I like about you, Terence, is that you've brought boxing to Omaha. You didn't try to go off all these other places. You've brought big, huge shows, HBO, to Omaha. And do you have any future plans to bring even more big fights to Omaha? Or what are you guys' thinking for local, at least?
Of course. My goal is to bring, you know, not just Omaha, Nebraska as a whole, you know, because I feel like, you know, that's what we're missing. You know, we missing the big fights. We missing people getting in their cars and getting dressed up to go see a fight, or even just tuning in on TV, because there's not a lot of boxing going on around here. Even the Golden Gloves then got smaller and smaller and smaller each year. The crowds there's not too many fans interested in boxing anymore. They all converted to MMA, and I feel like I'm bringing the fans love and joy back for the sport to come back and support not only me but the youth and the kids as well.
Travis, let me back you up to what you said about Terence and your fight with him. What was it about him that made you say that he was absolutely more special than any other fighter that you've ever fought?
It was his hand speed, and it was how powerful he was with his punches. Like, I've never been. It wasn't just like I've been hit really hard by guys and I've caught punches, but Terence was like pinpoint accuracy with his punches, and that's the type of knockout power that makes you special, is when you can pinpoint it. And I think another guy is Floyd Mayweather that pinpoints his punches. And Terence, I would say, do you think that's one of your definitely strengths, is that you pinpoint your power?
Oh yeah. I was always taught, make them count. My coaches never believed in the pity pat, shoe shine stuff. They was always telling me make the punches count, and that's what I practice.
Talk to us about your coaches a little bit. What have you learned from them? How much of an impact have they had on you?
Impact for what?
How much of an impact have they had on your development as a fighter? How much credit do you give them for who you are?
Everything. I learned everything from my coaches. They taught me everything I know, and I got to give them the credit for everything.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor with Travis Hartman. We're talking to the undefeated, undisputed light champion of the world, Terence Crawford. Max Kellerman and Chip Lampley and Roy Jones Jr. have all made the same observation about you in the ring. It says Terence Crawford has a mean streak. What's your reaction to that? And if that's true, where do you think that comes from?
Terence Crawford what?
Terence Crawford has a mean streak. Is what they say.
Oh yeah, I think it just comes from not having the same opportunities that other fighters have. The will to want to be noticed. When you go on the East Coast and West Coast, those fighters is noticed through the amateurs, and they got the people that's backing them and hyping them up to be something that they really not. And you is being a fighter with so much talent and so much promise. They don't look at you the same.
So, Terence, what kind of a ride is this for you? As a guy 4 years ago, a lot of people really didn't know a whole lot about. What's it like to walk down the street in Omaha, Nebraska, and beat Terence Crawford?
Oh man, everybody know me. Everybody embrace me. It's like everybody. It's like a big family.
Go ahead, Travis. Jump in there.
Oh yeah, I didn't have it. Terence. Omaha is kind of a tight-knit community, and you're definitely the local superstar there. Do you find some negative effects towards that as well? Getting the extra attention that maybe you wouldn't have normally gotten before?
Yeah, there's always negative issues. But you just gotta roll with the punches. That's part of the game.
Definitely.
Terence, you turned 30 a couple of months ago, but you really don't seem like a fighter who has a lot of wear and tear on you. Do you see yourself fighting for a lot of years, or do you have an exit date in mind like Sean Porter does, considering it's such a dangerous sport and you've got a wife and family that cares about you?
Yeah, I don't want to fight till I'm 40 and late 30s, get in and get out.
Are you having fun doing it? Is it a fun sport for you?
Of course.
You are in a noisy place, pal.
Yeah, I'm at this basketball game.
I was getting ready to say, is that a basketball game? It sounds like one.
We're talking to Terence Crawford on the Ringside Boxing Show. A little bit noisy where he is. Terence, you got a photo on Facebook of your son who won a national championship in wrestling recently. Brag about your kids a little bit for us.
Oh, yeah, my kids is awesome, man. Work hard to get to where he at. Last year he got second. Then, I told him, I said he had to lose a couple of ounces. I had him running on the treadmill, and I just told him, I said, hey, listen, you mad that you have to lose this little weight, get a reward for it. I said, you want a reward? He said, yeah. I said, you know what the reward is? He said, no. He said, what is it? I said, being a national champion. I said, so go out there and win it. You know, he told me, he said, Dad, I'm going to win it. He said, I'm mad that they making me lose this weight. He went out there and did what he had to do.
That's great. Hey, last one for you. You got a target date in mind for your next fight?
March or April.
March or April. Okay. All right, man. Hey, Terence Crawford cleaned out the 140-pound weight division. He was the very first fighter since Kostya Tszyu to accomplish that feat, and now he's looking to make more history and take over the rugged 147-pound division also. Terence, it's been a pleasure. You're to watch with Travis. I say we can't wait to take on the rest of the welterweight division. And thanks for being a part of the Ringside Boxing Show. Tell those guys in the background to shut the hell up, man. We're talking on the radio.
right, man. I had to come outside again. That was the last shot. They in overtime.
All right, man. Terence Crawford on the Ringside Boxing Show. Thanks, Terence.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Terence,
appreciate
thanks
it
again, man.
All right. And that's going to do it for us today. Thanks, as always, to our expert analyst, Travis Hartman, who helped me out on this interview today, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti. Travis, great job with our featured guest today. And thanks, as always, to our expert from Great Britain, Paul McLaughlin. And, again, I screwed up and deleted his recording before the show, so we didn't hear from Paul today. But another great big thanks to Terence Crawford. Best of luck to him going forward in that absolutely brutal welterweight division. Hey, if you've got a business that might benefit from a relationship with a boxing podcast that has a rapidly growing worldwide audience, be aware that we have amazing advertising rates here. Send me an email at contact@ringsideboxingshow.com. And if you like this show, do us a solid and spread the word, would you? Post us on your social media and help other boxing fans discover us, help us grow. Thanks to you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience today. I am Dennis Taylor, and for Travis Hartman and John Raspanti and Rizwaan Zahid, I'll say we will see you next Sunday on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. 'Cause it's a great day